Hey guys, I hope you are doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about caring for yourself a little bit more during the holiday season and caring for your soul essentially. And I know I need to sit down and record this video because I needed it for me. So I'm believing some of these things will be helpful for you as well. Essentially, the holidays are a time of year where a lot of overwhelm can creep in, where we feel like there's so many different emotions. We are reflecting a lot on the year. Maybe we didn't hit some goals that we were planning to hit. Maybe the year didn't quite look the way we wanted it to look. This year in particular, I knew I needed to put some strategies in place to make sure I'm showing up for myself in a better way. So this year I've had some very high moments where I just felt so good. It was a lot of travel, a lot of new opportunities, a lot of time with family. Me and Christian got to spend a lot of time together this year. So it's been a lot of great moments. I've also had moments where I feel like I'm holding my breath, and maybe that's kind of me describing that I was in this survival mode for some of the year as well. So now I'm kind of at this place where I'm like, girl, you had some moments this year. You got to be careful at with how you handle yourself as you close out this year and go into the new year. So we can look at this from the holidays are coming and it's a new year, and that causes a lot of reflection and we're thinking about a lot that took place. One thing I've been working a lot on this year is learning how to set healthy boundaries, and I want to share that with you guys because it's something important to do during this time of year. And one way that it's really easy for me to set boundaries is saying no when it's not an immediate yes. If yes doesn't pop up when someone asks me a question, it's probably gonna be a no. But I may reflect on how I'm feeling about it depending on who the person is. If I'm maybe give me a day to reflect, give me some time to think about it. So just setting healthy boundaries. And I think this time of year we have to set just boundaries around saying no when we don't want to do something, and verbal boundaries are so necessary because I know we all have that person where we're just did they just ask me that? I know they didn't just ask me that. Or they bring up something that we don't want to necessarily even talk about because it's a trigger for us. So figuring out okay, if this comes up, I know this is a tough spot for me. What am I going to say? How am I going to show up in that situation, in that moment? Also with this is not oversharing. I feel when we set boundaries, sometimes we feel the need to say no or share how we feel or our response, and then we're oversharing, and then they're asking more questions, and it's wait, how did I get so deep into this conversation? I don't even want to be this deep. So setting those healthy boundaries in our life. And don't forget about the financial ones either, because I know it's so easy to spend, but you don't want to go into January stressed because you've overspent in December. So thinking about who do I specifically want to spend money on? What travel do I necessarily want to omit until next year? Just kind of looking at it from a different lens and kind of tracking out those expenses so we don't end up stressed out going into the new year. Also, this is an important time to acknowledge the emotions and acknowledge what's coming up and what we're feeling. Not allowing the anxiety, the depression, the stress, all of that to overtake us necessarily, but we are acknowledging that oh, this is present. This is an emotion that's there, that's present, that's coming up for me. Because when we don't acknowledge it, it's going to linger, it's going to stay there. But once we're able to name it, then we're able to take some steps to figure out what to do to work through it, to manage it, to get help. All of those things can take place once we actually name what's coming up. Next, I think it's so important to connect with self. For me, I recognize that I need to create time and space to just be alone because that's how I recharge. I've always been this way, and I know I need space and time to recharge. And I feel when you're with family, you can get so intertwined in okay, we're cooking, we're doing this is the activity, or people are staying with you, so you're hosting and all of that. So I think it's important to still keep some type of system where I'm still doing my morning routine as usual, I'm doing something in the evening, or maybe it's modified, I'm still taking a morning walk. All of those things I think are very important to do. And as I'm trying to connect with myself and replenish and all of that, I'm making sure I'm not connecting, or I'm disconnecting from social media, I'll say. So that way I'm not seeing everyone else's life, and I'm just kind of present with my own life and in my own thoughts. I know I used to have a very difficult time getting on social media on Christmas Day because I would compare my life to other people's, and like before I got married, I would compare other people getting engaged on Christmas, because that's a very common time of year for people to get engaged. And it just really affected me. Like even like 19-year-old Ashley, it affected me like from a very young age, I'll say. I think sometimes our brains aren't meant to receive so much information that social media feeds us, and it can lead us, it can just distract us from like, this is the path that I'm on, this is the path I should be on. So I could go on a whole tangent about social media, but essentially as I'm connecting to self, social media is not included in my like downtime at all. When it comes to soul care, I find it to be helpful to figure out what feels good during this time of year and what feels right. And for me, that means like setting new traditions when necessary. Years ago, when I lost my brother, I remember that was in September, and that December I was like dreading the thought of Christmas, and my parents made the decision to, or maybe it was like somewhere in between, I can't really remember, but around the holidays I remember we went to the beach, and I remember just feeling like happy. Like I remember feeling like, wow, like I haven't felt this emotion in a while. And setting that new tradition and getting into like a new space or atmosphere, I find it to be very helpful, and it creates more peace. So just kind of thinking about like, what can I do? What feels right? What feels best for me to do? It doesn't have to look the same this year. I also have to figure out like, is there something distracting me during this time of year? Because you can end up distracted and I'm not spending time with God, I'm not being present with myself, and I'm not taking care of my soul in the way that I need to. So now I'm not feeling my absolute best, or I'm a little agitated, or whatever the case is. So for me, I am intentional about like, do I need to reduce my screen time? Is that distracting me? My space can be very distracting for me. So if my space feels cluttered, like this time of year, I'm doing some decluttering and getting rid of things just so we're not taking it into the new year. So just figuring out like what feels like it's tugging on me or distracting me or weighing me down during this time of year is very helpful. So I really hope this video helped you in some way. I am very intentional about caring for my soul this time of year. I need it. I need it. I need it. I need it. So with that being said, if you guys like this video, then just like it so it can get out to more people as I'm trying to grow. That would help me a bunch. And also share it with someone that you know may need it. So I will, my shoulder's popping. I will talk to you guys in my very next video. Bye guys.